Welcome everybody. As typical these days, we have our lovely housekeeping reminders, and I'll direct you to them first. The typical, put your cell phone on stun. If you, as the day goes on, if you need a restroom, they're out that way. And then just a reminder about those of you who are going to stay all day and dine with us, there's the lunch process that you probably went through already. Welcome again. I'm Greg Rose. I'm the Deputy Director for Children and Family Services here at the Department of Social Services. And I was just, as I was waiting for this to start, I was wandering around the room and saying hello to so many of you. And as I was doing that, I had this different memories of all the work we've done over the years that touch on this important work, and I got a new kind of bit of enthusiasm and excitement, and I picked up on a lot of the energy in the room, and I'm happy that that happened, and I'm hoping the same thing will happen with you all today, because as you'll see, we have a pretty ambitious process and products that we are about to embark on, and it will require all of us to come together on a regular basis and work through many things. And I want to remind you all, as I reminded myself this morning when I got up, this will be hard work. There will be many conversations. There may be disagreements. Certainly there'll be debate. And at some point, it's important for us to remember what it's all about, and that we're really trying to make a difference in the lives of children and families that are served by our collective system. And if we can keep that in mind, I know that we can move forward. I do want to just say a few things. If you look around the room, you'll notice that there are colleagues from all different parts of the system, the executive branch, the legislative branch of government, the county associations, county folks from probation and child welfare, provider communities, youth, family partners, training folks, et cetera, et cetera. And all of us, at one point or another, have worked on these issues together. And what we're going to do on the Continuum of Care reform effort is to build on those things that we've done previously, and to weave together many of the actions and activities that are happening right now in the various departments, with the end result of making a system that really benefits children and families in the way we need to. So I won't spend much more time. You'll get another chance at me a little bit later. But my main goal today, at this moment, is to welcome you and to let you know also that we're being joined by a dozen or so, and maybe more folks on the webinar version of today. The other thing I just wanted to mention before I welcome or introduce our two main speakers for the morning is that we recognize that everybody in this room and your colleagues as well have some level of interest in this issue. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here, or you wouldn't be joining us by telephone and by webinar. We also recognize that some folks have a need for ongoing information and will kind of follow from somewhat of a distance. And we also know that many folks are part of the crew that will roll up their sleeves and work with us on a regular basis. The process we've designed that we'll be talking about a little bit later really accommodates both needs. And so, and we've started a little bit of that by creating a web page, and that this event and subsequent events and our previous webinar from last week will all be archived there, along with other kinds of important documents and updates, so that we'll be able to help folks who can't be here every day or be with us in every work group meeting to stay connected to the work. I'm happy also to say that we pulled together, if those of you who are in the center, if you look around the edges of the room, most of the folks sitting around the edges of the room are CDSSers from 4 different divisions. And just like it's going to be a large effort in the stakeholder community, it will be a large effort to make this happen within our own organization. And so we have representatives from our children's division, our licensing division, our admin division, and our legal folks as well that will be here to help support this effort. So with that, I just want to mention a couple of last-minute things. We're here with somewhat of an ambitious timeline, and by October, we will have implemented a set of improvements in the child welfare system. We'll create a detailed action plan, so we're not creating a plan to plan. And some of you have been involved with me and others when we've done those things, but this is an action plan that we're going to commit to. And we're going to develop a set of recommendations that will be picked around by policymakers so that we can actually continue to drive the system toward better outcomes for kids and families. I think what I'd like to do now is introduce both Will Lightborn, our director, and Frank Mecca, the executive director from CWDA, who will help us from frame what we're going to do and why we're going to do it, and look forward to hearing their words. So Frank and Will. Frank, Will.
I stuck my notes underneath because from prior experience, if I set them down somewhere in the room when I first come in, I'll never find them again. It's a frantic situation. And something I should mildly correct in what Greg said. Our goal, of course, is to have our product by October 2014, not October.
Oh, did I say 2015?
You said just October. That's ambitious. First, let me join Greg and welcome everybody here, and thank you for coming. Stakeholders within the state government, stakeholders outside, our federal partners, philanthropy, and of course we have our partners in the provider services. We're also going to be joined, if we haven't already, by a group of youth who are going to also participate in our conference. We have...
They're downstairs.
Oh, they're downstairs. Oh, okay. I had a chance to meet with them yesterday and did some preliminary conversation on the purpose of today. And I stressed to them the importance of their really feeling full participants in this, because CYC has made it its motto, nothing of us without us. Work we're doing today, as you know, builds on work that has been started before, and I think it's always important to be mindful to recognize those who have done the early work, the early lifting, the California Alliance, Safety Family, Sierra Health, Stewart Foundation, Child Welfare Information Department, who participated in the first congregate care integration project. Materials sent out as background to this. But as we launch this part of our effort, I want to emphasize a couple of things. This really is, for me, the highest priority, not one of the highest priorities, the highest priority that CDSS Social Services has in near medium-term future, is bringing this up to completion. And I really don't expect to find myself kicking off and became more important than this one. It's extremely important. And I say that because of all the responsibilities the state takes on, not just CDSS, the state as a whole, when we intervene in the lives of children and we've taken responsibility for their care, fulfilling that responsibility is the highest moral, highest ethical, and highest legal obligation. Before getting into what it is that I'm saying I think we need to make change, let me start by acknowledging enormous amount of change that's been happening in our field and our work over the last decade. It has been a time of tremendous change, tremendous improvement, and it's been spontaneous in many instances, ground up in most instances, interlinked by the desire to cooperate and collaborate rather than mandated and in any sense sort of coming from the top. When we think of the recognition of the importance of children remaining in their own families if at all possible, the reductions in long-term care in California over the last decade is extraordinary. The growth in prevention and early intervention services to support that change has been virtually end-to-end across the state. The increased understanding of the importance of and the focus on and the delivery on maintaining stability of children in care and stability in sibling groups continues to improve. The increased appreciation of the importance and the value and the very positive outcomes of family and relative care has become, I think, universal across the state. The shared development between counties and service providers of wraparound services, following you back into their homes and into the communities, is now the norm. We've had pilots like RBS, the Quality Parenting Initiative, that really stand at the forefront of practice in the country. The people who made that happen, many of them are in this room, and thanks of certainly me personally and PDSS and the state go to everyone who's been part of this. That said, we have agendas in front of us because we have unfinished business in front of us. We all agree that the needs of a child should drive the services and their level of care, not the availability of services and the level of care. That youth and alternative care should be in the most family-like setting that can be arranged and organized. That higher levels of care, congregate care, group homes, FFAs, etc., should be for a specific need, for a specific period, for a specific child, and should really be an intervention, not a placement. We should think of it as an intervention, not a placement. That these services should be of high quality. That a child who is removed from their own home because of maltreatment should not be at risk of maltreatment in alternative care. We should know what various alternative intervention services are good at and what they don't specialize in, because they're not particularly good at. We should know that the services that are being obtained and provided are priced properly. If we don't price it properly, if we don't pay for it adequately, we won't get a quality service. If we overprice it, overpay for it, we break trust with the taxpayer, and we don't have the resources for others who need it. We need to know what are the outcomes of a particular intervention programs. What is the likelihood that a youth who has been in that intervention program will step down to lower levels of care, will remain at lower levels of care, or return home?
Well, is there anything that can be done about this now?
Is it hard? I beg your pardon. Let me step in very close. Well, I'm not going to start from the beginning again. But anyway, let me skip the filler and get to the desired end state. My desired end state, when we accomplish all of the goals that we're going to outline and set out for us, are that a given child in a given county, the knowledge of that child's needs are matched with the knowledge of what the available resources and intervention services are, such that the child is going to the most carefully matched setting for the most carefully defined time with the most carefully monitored plan for ultimate return to low-level care in the community, either at home or in another permanent facility. It's timely to start doing this now for a couple of reasons. As part of child welfare services realignment, we have now clearly placed the responsibility for practice management with counties. We've also, I'm sure Frank will elaborate, placed financial responsibility with the counties. What we need to align are the state policies on data collection, on licensing, ombudsman information, youth surveys, satisfaction information, so that the placement agencies have available to them reliable, up-to-date information about what alternatives are available to meet the needs of a particular child, of a particular child. Last year, I did a number of unannounced visits to some of the group home providers, and those, you could tell those which knew who they specialized in and what they were good at by their quality. It was apparent. Those who not so, not so. And what we've got, I think, be able to do is develop a robust enough system of information amongst us collectively that we can say with a high degree of confidence that the circumstances under which we're arranging for a child's care are the right set of circumstances for that particular child. Finally, a process thought, or a couple of them. As Greg sort of said, we've got an end point of October 2014. We proposed that as part of the budget bill this past June. And although there will be, I'm sure, actionable administrative changes and improvements that we identify along the way that we'll have to wait for October 14th, from my perspective, the importance of having a final delivery date is that we're a complex state, we're a large state, we're a county operating state. We have to interface the functioning of state and county operations. And one of the things I know we've always struggled with is being able to scale our improvements and our initiatives in a way that they really do become practice standard rather than office development. And so part of the goal of sort of saying we have a final finished product target is so we are able at the end of that to wrap all of our thinking into an action plan that we can then say, and we have reason to think that this then becomes sustainable and becomes the norm of how we're doing business. Again, I appreciate everyone who's taking their time on this. And I realize full well that I am in many ways in a company of people who have gone far ahead of me, far before me in this thinking and this work. But I'm committed to help us all get there in October 2014. Thank you.
Thank you, Will. I would like to start by actually thanking Will Lightbourne, Greg Rose, all of the staff at CDSS for convening us for this effort. It's obviously a sincerely held desire for the department, and it's shared by the counties and everyone in this room, to have the highest quality services to kids and families, and to have children with families or in the most family-like setting with the highest quality services so that we can produce the best outcomes for them in our state. And I'm very excited, and the welfare directors in the state are very excited to be part of it. So I'm here to welcome all of you along with Will. Public sector, private sector, nonprofit sector, foundations, academia, service providers, county agencies, state agencies, disciplines that go beyond child welfare, mental health, education. We're all represented here, and we've all come willingly, not because our bosses told us that we had to, but the commitment among all partners and stakeholders to the highest quality outcomes for children and families in the child welfare system is clearly present and should be acknowledged and honored, and hasn't always been the case. I think as I look back on my almost 2 decades with the counties, I'm truly struck by how far we've come and how quickly we've come. And I won't recount all of the efforts and initiatives and work that people in this room have done to get us there, but I think Director Lightbourne did that quite well. But it is striking where we are today versus where we were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and 20 years ago. So the headwind, the momentum that we have behind us as we embark, I think is significant. And the groundwork that's been laid for the work that's before us, I think has been quite remarkable. And I'm proud of all of the stakeholders' efforts over the past years in accomplishing where we are today, and look forward to the hard work ahead, because as Director Lightbourne indicated, there's a lot of work still to do. I've been asked to comment on our vision for what we want for kids and families and how this effort could contribute in pursuit of that vision. And in the interest of time, I would say that CWDA completely endorses the vision laid out by Director Lightbourne. And I know that not everybody heard all of it, but I think Will speaks for his former colleagues in CWDA and currently all of our members. We want a system that's first and foremost driven by what children and their families need. We want a system of high quality, integrated, seamless services for children and families, not just from the child welfare system, but across all of the disciplines necessary to address the issues that children and families in our systems experience. We are absolutely, completely committed to the youth and family voice in driving efforts like this. We often say it. We are always sincere. We don't always succeed. And to the extent that we are not, I would expect that we get called out. I think the CYC and Chantel will do that. But I do think it's important that we check ourselves and make sure that everything we do are the youth and families legitimately, genuinely present and involved and listened to in the discussion. We believe very strongly that the transition supports and aftercare supports have to be available at every level as children are moved to more family-like, least restricted settings. In the absence of those transition and aftercare services, we will not achieve the outcomes that we want. As Will indicated, there is a pretty significant change in the environment, and that's realignment. I know a lot of people have talked a lot about what realignment means. I should say, without sounding cliche, there are opportunities present in realignment. There are opportunities presented by additional funding flexibility. There are opportunities presented by the possibility of some stability and small, modest growth in revenues, which are factors that we have not had for some number of years. But like any major change, I mean, there are also big challenges. We did significantly shift sort of locus of operational focus from the state to the county. But from the county standpoint, we very much want, desire, and expect strong state leadership and a strong state partnership to provide counties and all of our partners with the tools to become successful. Data, resources, the ability to convene, identify, and share best practices. So please, if you're concerned that realignment means that from the county's perspective that we get to do whatever we want and we want to do it by ourselves, rest assured that our presence here indicates otherwise, and that we look forward to and expect a terrific partnership with the state and all of our stakeholders. And finally, we embrace the accountability for the results. And I think we've done that since the advent of the state outcome monitoring system. I'm trying not to use the term AB 636, but the advent of the use of data to guide our activities and to help us understand the impact of our activities, and the gaps in the work that we still need to do is important. And we embrace that accountability, and we know we have to share it. We know we can't do it alone. We know the best result for children and families will occur when we're all working together, we're all pointing in the same direction, and we all embrace the accountability for what I believe is the most important task that government has, which is to assure the safety and well-being of children who are abused and neglected, who we decide to intervene in their lives. And I really think there's no more important task, and I think we have a terrific head start in the effort that we're about to undertake, and I'd like to thank everyone and tell you that we're looking forward to it. Thank you. So it sounds like Frank and Will have set the bar high, and I, for one, am ready for the challenge, and I'm hoping that all of you are too. What we'd like to do now is just to talk a little bit about how we get to the destination that was just described. So, as you know, the recent piece of legislation, SB 1013, among many things that had in it, had also the requirement to reform the continuum of care. And this is actually, the first time we brought people together face-to-face to talk about that. We did have a webinar last week that kind of provided some background information for many folks. It's certainly our intent with this legislation, as Will and I have said previously, is to build on and weave together many of the activities that are currently going around happening in the state now. We're going to use a little bit as our guidance this framework for congregate care reform efforts in California that so many of you worked on, that was funded by Casey, as a way to kind of guide and track some of our activities. But specifically, when we think about the work ahead of us, we will have to be cognizant of how what we're learning from our residentially based service reform efforts and how that fits into what we want to accomplish. We need to think about the quality parenting initiative and how we expect what we expect from foster families, and how we partner and with them as legitimate members of the treatment team. We need to think about another piece of part of that same bill that asks us to craft and work with counties on a unified family assessment process that really kind of weaves together the foster care and adoptions processes. We need to be well aware of the work that we are doing with our partners at the Department of Health Care Services around the KDA lawsuit settlement, and working together to make sure that youth in foster care get the appropriate mental health services that they need. All of these efforts that are currently underway in some way, shape, or form, as a pilot, as an implementation plan, or in further development, all will play a strong role in getting us to the end point that Will and Frank had just described. And I think that our legislative colleagues expect, and certainly kids and families not only expect but deserve. So just a note of caution, when we're done in 15 months with this process, doesn't mean the work stops then. There will still be much work to do. As Will said, whatever changes we think we can make along the way, we will. And yet, there's still, this action plan will also create actions for the future. And so we expect to see many of you, most of you, and some of your friends all along the way to help us achieve that vision. So I think it might be time to ask Ellie to come up. Ellie Jones, our branch chief over our operations division, or our operations branch, I'm sorry, will kind of walk us through some of the more detailed processes and get you kind of oriented to what we have in store for you for the rest of the day, and what we have in store for you and what we have in store for us collectively over the future. So Ellie's going to spell out a little bit about the structure, the process, and et cetera, that will help us get to where our desired destination. So it's my pleasure to introduce Ellie Jones.
Let me move this down. Good morning, everybody. Welcome again. Just want to take kind of a midpoint check. I understand that we've had some issues with the sound, and I'm hoping that the folks in the back can hear a little bit better now. Also want to just do a little quick check about the temperature in the room. It takes a little bit of time for the temperature to come down. We have modified it, but rest assured it will cool off just a little bit. I'd like to take a few minutes of your time today to talk about the structure for this reform effort, some of the lessons that we've learned from other things, and how we're looking to move this effort forward. As you've seen today, we have quite a bit of cross-divisional, cross-organizational, and certainly multidisciplinary interest in getting this off the ground, as well as moving forward. The leadership that you've listened to this morning, as well as the folks that are going to be participating in all of these work groups, are critical to our successes. We believe that this effort is going to be firmly based in the collaboration of all of these entities that have not only spoken today, but from the organizations that you all represent. And in that, we've structured this reform effort in a way that is similar to what we experienced with our implementation of our After 18 program, also known as 8012, for those of you who like to reference bill numbers. We've learned a lot through that process, and again, the foundational work of that really was built upon the collaboration of all of our disciplines. So let me talk a little bit more about the details, because there's always the devil in the details. Roles and functions. We have an executive committee that we've established, who these individuals are our Director Lightborn. We've heard from the County Welfare Directors Association Executive Director Frank Mecca, Chief Jim Salio, who is here today. Jim, he's with our Chief Probation Officer of California. Welcome. And I'd also like to acknowledge Vanessa Baird. Vanessa's big wave there. Vanessa's with our Department of Health Care Services. She has been acknowledged by her director, Toby Douglas, to be a participant here. Vanessa is the Deputy Director of the Mental Health Division of Healthcare Services, and again, a critical partner in this effort. We have established a steering committee. Many of you may not be able to give as much time as you would like to this effort through the work group processes. So we have a steering committee that is an advisory body that will oversee the progress of each of the 3 work groups I'm getting ready to speak about. This committee will identify gaps, areas that need further evolution. It will also look and review the work group products and provide feedback as far as whether or not we're moving in the right direction. We envision that the steering committee representatives will participate probably once every 6 weeks in some type of a formal meeting, whether it be by conference call or in person. This is a critical part of the functioning and the development of our structure. As we saw with the implementation of the After 18 program, the steering committee played a very critical role in that. We also have the CDSS leadership committee. The department really is on the hook for a lot of things, not only for the legislative report, but also because we are one of the key policymakers in these efforts. The leadership committee is comprised of each of the 3 co-chairs from each of the 3 subcommittees, as well as other key players in this division, the children's division, as well as across the department. This group is really going to be kind of a nuts and bolts check-in, check-out group We're here to basically make sure that we're moving in our time frames, that if there are interdepartmental issues, that we try and get them resolved, and so that we can best inform each of the work groups. You will see a lot of them around as we move forward. Let's talk a little bit about the work groups. We're looking to have 3 different work groups for this process, recognizing that it's a fluid process, that each of these topical areas feed information to each other, and the fact that it will be very evolutionary as we move forward. And at one point, we will probably come back together as one individual work group, the recommendation, and we will move forward to the legislature and to all of our leadership. The 3 work groups are program, which will deal primarily with the services and the needs processes. A fiscal work group that will look really to look at how we can leverage the available funding to best serve our families. And the data work group, which will be tasked with working more towards establishing the provider outcomes as well as revisiting our current outcomes that we have for older youth or for kids in out-of-home care through our outcomes and accountability system. Each one of the work groups will have a co-chair that is from the department. Let me just real quickly acknowledge who those folks are. I get to do programs. So those of you who are interested in that will be working with me. Our fiscal co-chair is Cora Dixon right now, Cora. And she will also co-partner, I guess, with Deborah Williams, who is on vacation. And lastly, we have data. Again, a very, very important part of this effort. Kevin Gaines will be leading that effort. Kevin's in the back of the room. The co-chair roles and responsibilities will be to set the meeting times, to make sure that the group is achieving its goals and including the deliverables on time, and to provide progress reports to the steering committee as well as to the public and other advisory bodies. The department is the co-chair. So in order to have a co-chair, we need somebody else to work with. Some of the committees have already been formally, we have our leadership identified. With the data subcommittee, we will be working with Emily Putman-Hornstein from the University of Southern California. Her work with our programs has been over many years, and she's worked very closely with our friends at UC Berkeley and Carbondale. The program co-chair will be Luis Villa. Luis, say hi. Luis is with Sacramento County and has been very influential in the development of the RVS system with the county, and will be providing that voice. And we're currently working on the fiscal co-chair. So let's talk a little bit more about each of the work groups. The program work group. This is just, a little small thing. We'll probably meet once and be done, I'm guessing. This work group will be tasked with identifying and implementing the action steps. Basically putting together the project plan for how we want to be as far as a program. We will be looking at the policy issues. We will be looking at implementation issues. And we certainly will be looking at the larger program. How is the system going to work as we move forward? We will be working, again, across the divisions and across our disciplines to identify activities that we can implement along the way. As you heard earlier, this is not a plan to plan. This is a plan of action. So if there's something that can be implemented within the next few years, we're going to certainly seek to do that. We're looking to ensure that we have family-based alternatives, and that those family-based alternatives are readily available for the children and the youth that come into our foster care system. We want to ensure that these needs and services are individually based, and that the services and the providers are matched to meet those. That's just a small task that the program subcommittee has before it. The fiscal work group. The fiscal work group will be responsible for identifying and leveraging, to the degree possible, all of the available funds we have to provide for out-of-home care. While we focus predominantly on our AFDC, our Aid Foster Care, I'm just keeping it in the acronym, the AFDC Foster Care Program, the federally 4E eligible program, we want to also ensure that we're covering the continuum of costs, so that we're looking at our non-foster care or our non-federally eligible children and ensuring that these services are provided to them as well. They will also be looking to ensure that the available funding that may be available across all of our other disciplines, our ETSDT funding for mental health, our Title 19 monies, that all of those fundings to the degree possible can be used or leveraged for the purposes of supporting our children and our families. The data work group. And this is probably one of those work groups that we see maybe once, possibly twice. Really, they have a very, very big job ahead of them. They're tasked with identifying performance outcomes and working to better identify outcomes for our children and families involved with the foster care system to best assess the improvements that are needed and to determine whether or not what we're doing really is working. And that may be based on the satisfaction surveys or some type of a process for getting information from our youth and our customers. Responsibilities of these work groups. Today we're going to be breaking out into them. We'll be working to develop a detailed work plan that identifies schedules, identifies deliverables and action steps, and again, we'll be seeking to identify activities or processes that may be able to be implemented through the course of this work. Questions? You guys did all right? Come on, no questions? Always good. Timelines. As we heard from Greg earlier, we have a pretty aggressive timeline as far as development of the recommendations. We would like to have that done by really December of 2013 so that we can get all of the work and the approvals that those obtained prior to delivery of the report to the legislature in 2014. We're kicking off today, and really when we say kicking off, we're just kicking off the next phase of reform. Because as we heard from our earlier speakers, this has not been something that's been done overnight. We've been working on this for well over 20 years. We will also be looking at having some midpoint reviews where we're going to be bringing everybody back together, giving updates as necessary, and essentially making sure that we're all still moving forward in the way that we envision this process moving. We look to do that sometime in May of next year. So kind of put that roughly on your calendars, pencil it in. May, we'll be doing a midpoint meeting. The final recommendations are due to the legislature in December of 2013. And as you heard, we want to make sure that we have them there, formally developed, get to the legislature, give them ample time to review and to ask questions, and for us to be able to refine as necessary. We will be having a final convening of this effort in January of 2015. Quick show of hands. Who's still going to be here? Great, all of us. Wonderful. And again, 2015 is just a point in time, folks. It's a time when we will have some of these deliverables done, but we don't expect to have the full reform implemented. This takes time. It's taken many years to get us where we are. It's taken many years of utilization of all of the new pilots and promising practices to get us where we are today. The project schedule. The project schedule is going to be determined by the work groups and with influence and some feedback by our steering committee. Again, the steering committee is our oversight body. They're really going to be reviewing all of these products and ensuring that we're going in the right direction. The steering committee will be meeting at least every 6 weeks, just to kind of test this, making sure you're listening. Really, but the steering committee will be testing and just checking in, making sure that we're moving in the right direction. We anticipate the first set of work group deliverables will be presented in an October 12th steering committee meeting, which means we have right around 6 weeks to get things moving and at least to get some framework around our direction. So you will be seeing a lot of activity over the course of the next few months. Let's talk a little bit about the breakout paths. Now, you've heard a little bit about our committee structure. You've heard a little bit about the steering committee and our executive committee. But there's also going to be those 3 groups that are going to really be the ones to roll up their sleeves and to get a lot of this work done. We're going to start that work today. We have identified 3 rooms here on this floor where folks will be able to self-select where you would like to participate based on your areas of expertise and interest. We recognize that there are many folks that are here in this room that are feeling a little I don't know, like you want to be twin. Because there's more than one thing that you're interested in, and there's more than one thing that you may want to provide information to. We're asking that at least today that you go to the group that you feel that you can best inform based on the information that you provide and your skills and your knowledge. Recognize that we'll be working with our steering committee and our CDSS leadership committee to develop a process by which everybody stays informed and that the communication continues to move forward. I have to say I've never made a YouTube video before, but apparently now I'm on YouTube based on a webinar that we did last week. No, at least it's not something that's embarrassing. But I do want to let you know that we will be using the department's website to post the webinars, to post all of these products, so that if you happen to miss a meeting, you happen to need something, you want to hear the director's vision and Mr. Mecca's vision again, all of that will be available on our department's website. As you know, we're recording everything so that we have everything available to you. So please recognize that, and we'll be providing you with that information in a later point. So what are we going to be doing today? Developing our membership rosters. We're going to be developing our first set of action steps or areas that we want to focus on. We're going to be setting a meeting schedule, recognizing that many of us have very busy lives and meetings and other pressures on our days. But we're going to try and do what we can to accommodate a fixed meeting schedule, primarily with keeping in mind the fact that for youth it's a lot easier for them to participate if we have a set day. So we'll be working to do that. We're also going to be looking at where we want to go and setting our own time frames. It's going to be a long haul. It's going to be, at times, a bit of a struggle, but we will get through this together. We have gotten through parts of this already together, and we have a big thing ahead of us, and it's really exciting. I mean, I look at it as a legacy project. If you look back, the last time we redid the rate classification, the group home rates, 20 years ago. So, you know, this is state government. Nothing happens overnight. This is an effort that will happen over 16 months. So look forward to that. Questions? Wow. I feel pretty good that we've got a lot of information. Yeah, right here.
There's nobody here from the judiciary, and that seems concerning to me. Chris is on the phone. Hi, Chris. Okay, Chris is there.
Yeah, we do have a number of representatives that are actually participating via webinar, so they're actually hearing the presentation as well as seeing the slides. And we do have each one of the work group locations fixed with conference lines and internet, so we will be able to continue to transmit information across the web. Deborah.
I just noticed too that we don't have mentioned here anyone from state CMS. And that might be a good time to get engaged in the process, especially in the steering committee of this state.
So let me just test CMS with you, because when I hear CMS, I think about our state case management system or our information system for children's programs. So the state Medicaid system.
And can you repeat it for the phone?
So the question was, that didn't appear from the information that we've provided thus far that we have anybody here from our state Medicaid system. And I believe Vanessa will be working with us to identify partners for those efforts.
Yes, CHCS is the single state agency for Medicaid. You know, we serve as a liaison with social fellows. So things that come out of this process, we're going to engage with them. That will be part of our responsibility.
So the response to the question from Ms. Baird was that the Department of Healthcare Services will be working with us to identify issues where CMS will need to be responsive, and we'll be providing information along the way. Another question I saw in the hand. Yes, sir.
Are you going to be introducing the steering committee?
The question was, am I going to be introducing the steering committee? I think if you look around, you pretty much see it. We actually have, we're still finessing that because we do have representatives from the advocates that we've identified, certainly our legislative friends and partners, and many of our organizations, both from the provider networks and our sister agencies. So we have representatives from all of them who will be getting some of those rosters out and make them available as soon as it gets finalized. Any other questions? Okay, so I'm going to turn the microphone back over to Greg, and then we'll give you guys a little bit of information about lunch and where we're going to be finding ourselves for the afternoon.
So my colleagues, my friends in the training world often say that adult learning theory requires us to tell you things multiple times before they stick. And we went from the kind of a big picture to a more detailed kind of process that Ellie described. And I just thought we should, before we break for lunch, I would like to just kind of summarize what I think I heard this morning. And so the work that we're about to do is far greater than just trying to reform our group home process and our group home part of our system. It's really about promoting care that's more outcome focused, that includes other types of care, including FFAs and foster families, and we really want to be able to touch each section of the continuum of care. During the next 15 months, I heard us talk about kind of rethinking and looking at our rate setting system, look how we provide these services and supports to families and children. And we look beyond just the part of the system that's funded by federal funds, but look at it in a holistic way. And we look at a multitude of placement settings. And all of that needs to be done by October 2014. So there is, as I said earlier, there's a lot of work, there's a lot of energy in the room, there's a lot of faces that have journeyed down this road or parts of this road in the past. There's lots of experience and expertise and lots of energy, and so I think we can do it, and I'm glad that you're here along with us to help us do it. So I will, since it's getting close to our scheduled lunchtime, kick it back to Ellie just to talk about a little bit more of the details of lunch. But thanks for being here this morning. I look forward to seeing a whole bunch of you in the afternoon in the work groups, and I look forward to getting to know a lot more about you and your thoughts about this work as we move forward over the next 14 minutes.
Thank you, Greg. So let's talk a little bit about lunch, because I know that when you feed the beast is productive. So we want to make sure that folks know. If you have not already purchased your lunch, you should all have lunch tickets. They're blue tickets. The lunch is set up, so we're a little bit ahead, so we're going to take advantage of that time. And I'm going to let you know that the lunch will be out in front of our rooms, 235, 237, so it's on the same floor, but it's in the other tower. So if you just follow the hallway around, you will eventually find it. Again, it's the wraps and salads that have been provided by our cafe downstairs. We're going to be bringing everybody back together right around 11:45. So we're going to get a little time to network, to revisit with your friends, and reestablish some of those connections. Maybe even ask questions for those of us who've been involved with the process thus far. But I want to let you know where you're going to be going back to. So folks that are interested in participating on the program subcommittee will be meeting back in this room at 11:45. For folks who are participating in the fiscal work group, we'll be in room 203, which is one of the rooms across the hall. In the other rooms, the data work group will be convening. So those are kind of the details for lunch. When I'm sorry,
is there a room number for the data work group?
The data work group will be meeting in room 204. After lunch, and then after you guys meet, you start developing your work plan, we're going to bring everybody back here. And we're going to have the work group co-chairs report out and kind of give everybody kind of a heads up about where we're going and what we're going to be doing. And then reminding folks of when the next meeting dates are and when our steering committee will be meeting. Okay, any questions about that? Okay, well, I'm getting ready to take off the jacket, roll up my little sleeves, get ready for some work, so I hope you all are too. I look forward to working with all of you, and we're going to be making some great progress, guys. So thank you for coming this morning. Go eat, and we'll see you back here in a little bit.
I'm interested in the programs necessary for me to navigate